Hello, Peter, and welcome to the program. Now, tell me, what's happening in the Saleyards around the nation?
I think we've I suppose you could say we're getting back to a bit of normality post-COVID with all the yards closed. Just looking at our June month, we were sort of very similar to what we would have thought of, what we thought we would be from a budget point of view, but also pretty similar to what we were 12 months ago, maybe slightly up, if anything, on numbers. And, the first few days of July is much the same. So I suppose that part of the world's pretty well tracking back to normal.
Oh, great. And do you think that it will continue that way? Sorry, do you think it will continue this way?
Oh, I think it will, yeah. I think that, with the dry weather throughout the North Island and lack of space, we are also seeing stock move, which, for a long time there, we didn't see a lot of stock move. So I think it will continue. I think it'll continue right through to the spring.
Positive news then. What are the prices like at the moment?
They're pretty good. The international markets have probably softened slightly, but then at the moment, this time of the year in New Zealand, obviously there's a general shortage of prime stock, so therefore there's some premiums being paid against the international markets. But as I say, the international markets have come back a wee bit, but fundamentally they're still very sound. And a lot of the supply chain issues that we had earlier in the year when COVID first outbroke in China and Asia have sort of disappeared. So yeah, the pricing's pretty good. I think most farmers, while they're off those extreme highs from 12 months ago, most farmers will still be pretty comfortable with what they're getting at the moment.
Great, okay, and we had some good news with the global dairy auction. It was a massive increase, I think 8.3%, wasn't it? That wasn't expected, was it?
No, and I see Miles Hurrell even made the comment they didn't expect to see that sort of lift. I suppose yes, it's 8.2% overall, but the big one for New Zealand obviously is the powders, and I think some of the powders lifted by as much as 14%. So while it's very early days in the dairy season, a lot of farmers haven't even started calving yet. It will certainly lift some confidence across the dairy sector around what the potential payout will be for next year. So yeah, good news to get in the middle of winter, I suppose, particularly when we've got this wintry feeling at the moment with a fair bit of snow and ice around the country. But yeah, very good news, and hopefully that'll continue. Even if it holds at those levels, it will be good news. But there seems to be some indications that it might be a bit more upside yet.
And why is that? What is the reasoning being given for that big increase at the auction?
I think globally there's obviously COVID's affecting the world. It is a world pandemic, whether we like it or not, and we're seeing some countries their overall agricultural production has softened a bit. So not significantly, but you've got to remember that in the world of dairy trading, there's not a lot of dairy products traded across borders, and New Zealand's a big influence in that space. So, all it takes is China to start to want to, build some stocks again, or the South Americans wanting stocks, etc. So it doesn't take much to move it. A very small amount of product is traded, but production throughout the world, I think in a lot of food areas has softened a wee bit, and I think that's just a direct result of the pandemic. And
the government announced this week the roadmap for the primary industry. What are your views on that?
I think it's good to see that. I think the roadmap's important, but I also think that we know that New Zealand farmers and New Zealand agriculture is extremely resilient, and we also know that they're very adaptable. So while yes, the roadmap's very interesting, great to have, I think the agricultural economy, whether we like it or not, is going to be a really big part of our overall GDP for the next few years. So important that we have the roadmap, but as I say, I think farmers are generally very resilient, and farmers will get on and do the job anyway.
So things have changed a wee bit, and they are looking up for the rural sector, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I think that the rural sector is important to New Zealand, and I think it's great to see that they are looking out for them a little more, and maybe a little bit of softening in some of the changes that we need to make. But it's important that we have a sustainable farming system, and it's really important that the environment's looked after as well as increasing production. So it's important to balance that, and I think most farmers would think like that anyway. But I think it is important that we do have that balance. But with tourism, we don't know when tourism's going to come back. If we look at what's happened in Melbourne the last week or 10 days, COVID's here for some time yet, and managing that tourism industry is going to be extremely difficult. So we're going to be reliant again or more reliant on agriculture than we perhaps have been for the last 5 to 10 years.
And I think it's probably fair to say as well that COVID-19 has, the perception of the farming industry is a lot better now, the public perception. And I think, people in general have a more favourable approach or look at the rural sector as well, and what it provides for New Zealand. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I also think we've got to also remember that 90+% of everything we produce in New Zealand has to be exported, so we have to be mindful of that. So it's not just producing it; it's also the supply chains into the various countries. One of the challenges clearly we're going to have is the added value products. We've done a huge amount of work in the processing end of our industry, both dairy and meat, to actually have added value products, and in horticulture for that matter. The high-end restaurant trades in a lot of these countries, certainly in places like Shanghai, Beijing, and even through Europe, a lot of those high-end restaurants that would have been taking our real added value products are closed at the moment, and some of them are going to be closed for some time. So, dare I say it, we might be back to more commodity trading and less added value products. But that's not the end of the world. It just means that we just have to rethink about our product mix.